Trojans aren't going to wait for that. Surely they will attack again at any moment.
Not if they think we've left. Poseidon is the lord of horses. In Atlantis, a defeated general surrenders his horse when beaten.
A horse, yes. A great wooden horse.
I don't understand. Will it fight?
Well, we all know how this story continues. Welcome, it's time for another Hall of Fame episode. For this video I went back to an old favorite of mine, Age of Mythology, which basically is Age of Empires mixed with a lot of Greek, Egyptian and Scandinavian mythology and sagas. As before, I'll divide the video basically into 3 sections. What's the game about, what does it offer, and why does it deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. So, as already mentioned, Age of Mythology takes place roughly in the classical antiquity, but with all the monsters and stories from the mythologies of the ancient cultures actually being a thing. You will come across minotaurs, trolls, sphinxes and the Hydra. 4 civilizations are available for you to choose from: the Greek, the Egyptians, the Norse and finally the Atlanteans, each with different mechanics, specialties and playstyles, but more to that in the next section. As it's common for games of the Age of series, there are several story campaigns. The main one follows the adventures of the Atlantean Admiral Arkantos, who sets out to support the Greek forces at Troy, but then gets caught up in the plan of the Cyclops Gargarensis, who wants to free the Titan Kronos. Arkantos' travel lead him from Atlantis to Greece, Egypt, the far north and even into the underworld to prevent the overthrow of the Olympian gods and a world ruled by Kronos. The second campaign features the 2 dwarves Brock and Ivory you also meet in the main campaign far in the north. Here you follow their adventures and troubles involving a metal boar and the perfidious god Loki, who really likes to see other people fight. The Titan campaign finally, which was part of the expansion from Age of Mythology back then, features Kastor, son of Arkantos, and takes place several years after the events of the main campaign. Kronos again tries to escape the underworld, this time with the help of the deceived Atlanteans, and you soon gather the old comrades from the main campaign around you to fight him and some of the lesser titans he calls to his aid. Overall, the gameplay is pretty standard for classic RTSs, and if you played Age of Empires, you will immediately feel at home with how resource gathering and building works. Your citizens gather resources and construct houses, barracks, etc. Those buildings are used to recruit various unit types and research improvements for your troops, your buildings or your economy. But in addition to food, wood and gold, there is a new resource, Divine Favor. You'll need this and the new building, Temple, to recruit the mythical units. The mythical units are more or less known monsters from the various mythologies, and even if expensive, they are very useful due to either their raw strength or their specialized role. For example, the Egyptian Scarab or the Atlantean Behemoth, which act as living siege weapons. As in the Age of Empires games, you advance through different ages, each unlocking advanced units and technologies. The difference here is, when advancing in time you have to choose between 2 minor gods first, each offering other bonuses, spells and mythical units. These spells are also a new addition and vary greatly. There's a healing spell, another lets you create an earthquake or transforms units into more powerful ones, plus there are some which boost your economy by, for example, temporarily increasing the gold digging rate of your citizens. Already mentioned the 4 civilizations, so let's get a bit more into detail about them. On the basis they are quite similar, you don't need to fear completely different mechanics from them, but they certainly vary more from each other than in, for example, Age of Empires. The Greek work like a standard RTS faction, needing all resources equally and using pretty clearly labeled buildings and units. They don't require much time to get into and send their mighty hoplites, potent siege weapons as well as unique heroes like Hercules and great mythos like the Cyclopes, Hydras and Centaurs into battle. For the Egyptians, gold is a very important resource they need more of than wood. A couple of buildings like houses and resource drop sites are completely free, and their normal troops are relatively cheap and fast to train, but weaker. Supported by priests, they send their myth units like the Sphinxes, Scorpion Man and the Scarab siege unit into battle. The Norse feature some more interesting mechanics. Lacking defensive capabilities, they rely on their mobile drop sites, the oxen carts, to gather resources and gain divine favor by fighting instead of praying to the god. In addition, all their infantry units can construct buildings. Their army features a couple of specialized units as well as the mighty Heresier heroes, plus giants, valkyries, and the famous Einherjar. The Atlanteans, finally, have the most expensive citizens, which on the other hand are much stronger and more productive than their counterparts and, thanks to a pack mule, don't need to walk back to a drop site when gathering resources. The Atlantean army features a lot of very specialized units. Several of them look like ancient Roman gladiators, for example the Momillo or the Fanatic. All soldiers can be evolved into heroes and are accompanied by mythlians like the powerful and self-repairing Automaton army, as well as the mighty behemoth siege monsters. I see that those factions vary from each other quite a bit. The different deities you can choose from when advancing, and even more to that, with different spells, extra technologies, and of course mythical units. With the Titan expansion, you're also able to call a mighty Titan to your aid in battle. Those giants have a lot of HP, but they're mostly only effective against buildings and not so much against units. Nonetheless, it feels great watching a Titan wreak havoc on an enemy's village. I guess some of my enthusiasm may have already shown, but let's still get into the why does this game deserve a Hall of Fame spot question. Something that definitely needs to be mentioned are the well-designed campaigns with an interesting story, exploring the mythology of several ancient cultures. Different mission types mean you don't get bored from doing the same stuff over and over again. You don't need to start from scratch every time, building up a settlement, etc. There are a couple of missions completely without base building, in others you already have a partially built up base or work under a time limit to, for example, produce a certain amount of resources and don't even need to eradicate the enemy. All this is narrated in completely voiced in-game cutscenes. The campaigns will take you roughly 30 to 35 hours in total to complete. The 4 different but still balanced factions and the well-working gameplay basically mean fun for hours on end, especially in multiplayer with friends. Age of Mythology basically is one of the last great old-school RTS, and like Age of Empires, still playable today. And the great memories I got and the fun I still have with it today make it absolutely deserve a spot in my personal Hall of Fame. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Where to now, Arkantos?
Back to Atlantis. This was a welcome break from chasing pirates, but I need to return home.
Well, pirates or not, you need to get your boats repaired.
You don't think they can make it to Atlantis?
No.